Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Sometimes the second game absolutely bodies the first one. Sequels often take everything that worked in the first game, toss out the trash, and then crank it up to 11. And now with Hollow Knight SilkSong being released, it got me thinking, how often do we actually see sequels not just succeed, but become the definitive version of a franchise? So today, let's talk about why most game sequels are almost always better. And maybe the second installment curse might actually be a second installment blessing for Hollow Knight's SilkSong. Let's talk about it. Alright, first games are like the testing ground. They're proof of a concept. They introduce us to the mechanics, the world, and the characters that makes the game special. But let's be honest, they're often rough around the edges. Developers are still figuring things out, trying to see what works and what doesn't. They're experimenting, making mistakes, and learning as they go. And by the time a sequel comes around, the devs have a lot more info. They've learned from the first game's successes and failures. And now they can craft something more polished and refined. They also usually have more money, more time, and now a dedicated fan base that's eager for what's next. That being said, not every sequel hits the mark. Sometimes they miss the mark entirely, or they try to do too much and end up losing what made the original great. However, many beloved series like The Legend of Zelda or Halo have sequels that clearly show the developer's evolution. They refine their ideas and deliver games that feel like the true vision of the franchise. So let's start off with some big examples. Red Dead Redemption 2. The first Red Dead Redemption was already a masterpiece. But then Rockstar said, hey, hold my whiskey. RDR2 didn't just expand the map, it expanded everything. From narrative depth, realism, and immersion. Suddenly, you weren't just a cowboy. You were living as Arthur Morgan. Hunting, camping, shaving your scruffy beard, bonding with your horse. It was all so ridiculously detailed that the world felt so alive. And now most people consider RDR2 as one of the greatest games of all time. Not just as a sequel, but as a generational leap. Then we have Resident Evil 2 Remake. This is where sequels show their power to redefine. The original Resident Evil was clunky, but iconic. Then Resident Evil 2 took it further. It has better pacing, scarier scenarios, more iconic characters like Leon and Claire. And years later, the RE2 remake basically became the gold standard for modern survival horror. Fans still point to it as the perfect balance of atmosphere, gameplay, and nostalgia done right. Then we have Need for Speed Underground 2. The first Underground was cool. It gave us street racing with style. But Underground 2, that was the game that ate up entire weekends. Free roam city, insane car customization, a banging soundtrack. Every kid on PS2 and Xbox was living their Fast and Furious dreams. And to this day, people still beg EA to bring back that vibe. And notice it's not make another Underground 1. No, it's give us Underground 2 energy. That's how defining a sequel can be. More examples are Left 4 Dead 2, Mass Effect 2, Halo 2, Portal 2, Borderlands 2, and so on. Now let's talk about Hollow Knight SilkSong. The first Hollow Knight, it was an absolute indie legend. Gorgeous hand-drawn art, an atmospheric world dripping with so much lore, and a Metroidvania design so tight it felt handcrafted just for you. But it wasn't perfect. It had a beautifully interconnected map that begged to be explored. Along with combat that was deceptively simple, but it rewarded precision. It also has a sense of discovery unlike anything else at that time. However, traversal could feel slow at the start, especially with backtracking, and some areas dragged on with punishing difficulty spikes, and progression and storytelling were a bit vague. It made some players bounce off. Then enter SilkSong. Right away, it feels like Team Cherry took notes and listened to every single criticism and every single praise, which resulted to this amazing game that everyone's been waiting for since 2017. Up until today, it's been highly anticipated, and it just came out. Hornet isn't just Hollow Knight with a new skin. She's faster, more agile, and her movement options completely change the rhythm of exploration. It has wall climbing, acrobatics, and tools that look tailor-made to keep momentum going. It all screams fluidity. Traversal? Solved. combat, it looks sharper, faster, and more expressive, thanks to Hornet's needle weapon and the emphasis on chaining moves together. Where the Knight felt heavy and deliberate, Hornet feels quick and stylish, like the difference between playing as a tanky warrior versus a nimble rogue. And the world itself? SilkSong promises a vertical focus, towering kingdoms, massive climbs, and layers of exploration that push the Metroidvania formula in new directions. It's not just about underground labyrinth, it's a sprawling kingdom where every climb feels like a progress. Even the quest system is getting a revamp. Instead of vague, figure-it-out-yourself NPC dialogue, SilkSong seems to give players more structured side objectives without sacrificing that trademark mystery. So if Hollow Knight was a slow burn that rewarded patience, SilkSong looks like a refined sequel that respects momentum. It's faster, sharper, bigger, but still with that same haunting beauty that made us all fall in love with the original.
Okay, so here's my strong take. Sequels, when done right, can be the truest form of a franchise.
Sequels aren't just part 2s. They're the moment a series steps into its own identity. Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't just expand on its first, it redefined what an open-world game could be. Resident Evil 2 set the gold standard for survival horror. Underground 2 became the street racing blueprint we still crave decades later. And now Hollow Knight SilkSong is next in line. If Team Cherry sticks the landing, this could be the kind of sequel we talk about years from now. Not just as a follow-up, but as the version that defines Hollow Knight as a series. The game that future indie devs point to and say, that's how you do a sequel. Because the first Hollow Knight, that was proof of a concept. Beautiful, challenging, unforgettable, but there are lots to improve. SilkSong, on the other hand, has the chance to be that refinement, the masterpiece, the one that makes us look back and say, yeah, Hollow Knight was good, but SilkSong, yeah, that was legendary. And that's why I love sequels. Not because they copy what worked, but because the great ones transform good ideas into timeless experiences. So the real question here is, are we on the edge of another legendary sequel moment with SilkSong, or will it stay in the shadow of its predecessor? Either way, I can't wait to find out.
But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Will SilkSong surpass Hollow Knight, or is the hype too high for it to live up to? Let us know in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more updates. Once again, it's been me, Elaine from Destructoid, and I'll see you guys in the next one.